Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. No matter the time of the day that you're listening to this, wanted to cover all the greetings. I want to thank you for tuning in on the very first episode of my podcast called Simply Miggy. I am Miggy, but by the government, I'm known as Miguel. And a little fact, I was actually supposed to release the first episode several weeks ago. I made a goal and date to release my very first episode, and when it came time after I finished recording it to press the release button, I froze because I was terrified that I was now seconds away of sharing something that became so personal to me over the last year. I became very terrified and very self-conscious about sharing something that personal across social media, because we live in a world nowadays that where people have opinions, and you always get fearful because you see a lot of people on social media, and some people get ridiculed or attacked or made fun of for things that they post. And I'm terrified and was terrified of doing so with my story, because I'm putting myself out there, putting my story out there. But a few days ago, a friend of mine reached out to me, and he had some concerns about his health, and we kind of have similar situations, and I was able to, at the end of our conversation, help him, become less fearful of going to get himself checked, because in reality, it is a terrifying experience when you know something's going on and you go to the doctor and you're hoping that the doctor says absolutely nothing's going on, you're fine. But that big if is in the back of my mind. What if you go and something is total opposite of what you want to hear? But what I learned to take away from that thought process was, you know what, even if it's bad news, it is some kind of news, and I can do something about it. So I was able to help, my friend gain that kind of insight, and now he's going ahead in his process to figure out where he stands in his health and to become proactive in, kicking this disease ass. So I decided to not be scared, but to be inspired to release the first episode of the podcast. But I am re-recording it, so this is not the original episode, but a more updated and remastered version of the first episode. I wanted to start the podcast off in a different direction. So again, I want to thank everyone that is tuning in, that will be tuning in, that has already tuned in. I want to thank you for your support in this, because it means a lot. So with your support, I can do anything, and I really want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. So about a year ago, I met up with a GI specialist because I was experiencing a lot of pain. I was sick a lot. I was sick for long periods of time. And a lot of these symptoms pointed to a gene that runs in our family that is kind of passed down from generation to generation. And it's called familial adenomatous polyposis. And the short term for that, or the abbreviation rather, is called FAP. And we're going to stick to the FAP because it's shorter, and that cluster of words becomes hard for me to pronounce correctly every time I say it, because I have a lisp, and because of that lisp, I screw up pronouncing it every time. It almost sounds like a different, gene mutation every time I pronounce it. So, when you hear me say FAP, that's what I'm referring it to. But I found out about a year ago that I inherited the FAP gene from my mother. My mom found out a few years ago, and what that means is it gets passed on. So one day, if I ever were to have kids, my kids will be at a 50% chance whether or not they will inherit the FAP gene. In my case, I did inherit it from my mom. I do have a brother and sister from my mom's side that they haven't gotten checked yet, so I hope that they do in the future, because they very well may not have it. It's a 50% chance, so I'm rooting that they don't have it, because who wants a gene mutation that can cause cancer later on in your life? So you're wondering, Miguel, well, what is FAP? Well, FAP is a genetic condition. Genetic meaning that it runs within families, and it's kind of handed down, or better yet, it's passed on from generation to generation. So in my case, my mother tested positive for FAP a few years ago, and when I started getting sick over the last year, about a year and a half, I was getting sick a lot, and I didn't really pay too much mind to it. I was just taking over the counter medicine to treat what I thought was a normal reaction or everyday type of body pain associated with maybe because I ate that greasy burger from this place, or I went out and I partied too much and had too many drinks. It's normal to think that the next day you wake up, or the next several days, you could blame it on those life choices that you made. But in my case, it wasn't that. It ended up turning out to be that I had the FAP gene, and those symptoms that I was blaming on what I was eating or drinking ended up not being just that. So when I tell you, FAP symptoms will come across well, I have diarrhea because I ate that, or I'm constipated because I ate this, or there's just so many things, so many symptoms that you can easily mistaken for something else. So in my case, all those years that I spent being ignorant, thinking that ain't gonna happen to me, if I go to the doctors, it will not happen. Well, guess what? I'm here to pop that bubble and break that thinking that if you don't get checked, it doesn't happen to you. That is the biggest baloney that there is in the world, and we all owe it to ourselves to get that information early on so we can live our best life. I deserve it, you deserve it, your brother, mother, sister, cousin, whoever it is, we all deserve a fighting chance to get that information and do something with it. So going back to what is FAP, FAP, it is diagnosed when a person begins to develop hundreds of polyps in the colon area, like myself, because I currently have 100 plus. And these polyps can begin developing in the mid-teens. So if you're a person with FAP in your teenage years, you're going to start developing these polyps. And by the age of 35, you can start developing multiple colon polyps. And I'm only 33 right now. I was 32 years old when I was made aware of the amount of polyps that were, growing inside my colon. And God knows when that started, when FAP started to, turn a notch up and start pumping out these colon polyps. So, it's, again, important to catch it early on in time, because you can avoid what FAP, what mess it can become, And if you don't recognize and treat, it in time, then you're very likely to develop colorectal cancer. And that is where I'm at, in time. At this point, I'm racing against a clock with no numbers on it, because when I went a few weeks after my surgery for a follow-up, my surgeon tells me, Miguel, you're going to have to start thinking about another surgery soon, because it's not a matter of if you're going to get cancer, it's a matter of when. And I don't have a timeline or a time frame to tell you. I can't tell you have 2 years to think about it, because it could happen in a few weeks, a few months, a few years. Feels like you're taking a chance if you don't decide to get the rest of your colon removed because you have way too many polyps for us to leave your colon inside. There's not there's no amount of colonoscopies that can remove all the polyps that you have, because I think they can only remove about like 10 or 12 at a time. And he said that I have a very aggressive form of FAP, so if they remove 12 polyps, then double the amount, if not triple the amount, can develop over time. So it's kind of taking 2 steps forward to get knocked 4 steps back. And that's when, I just got very overwhelmed, because in the summer I was given 3 choices and I thought I'd pick the right one. I picked the most obvious choice just to get the section of my colon removed that had the most polyps, and there was a large mass that was getting ready to turn cancerous. And my GI specialist at the time, led me to believe that this surgery, getting a right colectomy done, was gonna basically be the answer to my problems. And it wasn't. The surgeon, who was amazing because he was very knowledgeable about the kind of surgery I was getting and my GI issues, and he gave me 3 choices. Was to get that section removed, to get the whole colon removed, or to just take the cancer off the table completely, take everything out, and get a permanent ostomy bag. And I was like, hell no, I don't want a permanent ostomy bag. No offense to anyone who has one, but in that point in time, I'm still young, and that's not something I want to dive right directly to. I want to try to live a normal life as close as I can as a gay male in his 30s, and it just gave me a lot of anxiety to even think about that. So I was like, let's take that off the table, because I have family members who have the permanent ostomy bag, and I saw the struggles and how life-changing it was for them. So I was like, let's not even talk about that right now. If it comes on later in life where that is the only option, fine, but for right now we have options. So I was like, nope. And I went for the obvious choice. I chosen to get the right colectomy taken out, and that means it was a portion of my right colon removed, and that's where the bulk of the problems were, because there was a huge mass that was growing there that was benign after I got the biopsy report, but showed that it was working very, quick to turn cancerous. So if I would have waited a few months, this would have been a different kind of podcast. And so me being me, and I'm like, you know what, I want to get back to normal. I want to get back to the Miguel I was before all this came crashing down and completely changed me. And I went with that option. And a few weeks later, we're having a different conversation that I need to start thinking about another surgery, because based on the results after the surgery, he did more testing on the part he took out. He said there's way too many polyps still left in your colon, and it's not a matter of if you're going to get cancer, it's a matter of when. And he was like, and I can't tell you, and you have 2 years to think about what you want to do. He's like, there's no time. And I now needed to start thinking about what kind of surgery I want, because there was pros and cons to each one. And it was basically like making a deal with the devil, like what greater evil do I want to go with, And it just became very stressful, and I started to crumble. I started to lose more pieces of myself, because I already vision of becoming this opposite person that everyone knows me. And I became super depressed, became anxiety, became even worse. I will keep it real with you. I was having suicidal thoughts because I didn't want to go through the same feeling that I went through when I decided to make a choice on what kind of surgery I want. Now I'm having to do it again, and my fear is that I choose the wrong surgery, or that surgery doesn't work, and things go completely, left field on me, and I started to become very introverted. I distanced myself from people, and when I did try to get outside of like my own head and attend certain events where friends or family would be at, I felt very socially awkward. I didn't know how to interact with people anymore because I buried myself in this like cave where it was just me and nothing and nobody else, and I kind of felt safe there. I didn't have to interact with people. I didn't have to constantly have to keep telling people things, and I felt if I closed myself off that I'm safe, and I didn't know or realize that I wasn't safe. I was doing myself more damage than good, and I needed to start breaking down the wall that I put up around me and break down these barriers so that I can let people in and rejoin humanity. Be back out there living my best life. And I know it was tough on my family and friends the same way it was tough on me to see where I've gone from point A to point, B. And I'm going to try to do the best I can to regain parts of myself back so I can live the best life, but live the best life with my family and my friends. And while we're on the topic of family, I encourage my family to be more outspoken and make it more aware to my generation and the younger generations to follow, because we all deserve the chance to hear about what's going on. And my family, sometimes, we're known to be very prideful about who we are, and sometimes become in denial about certain things because we don't want to face the reality that is the reality. We don't want to face our nightmares, but if we face our nightmares, we can make them go away just simply by talking about it and keeping the ball rolling, so that one day we can actually start talking about how healthy we are for a change. In the past several months in my family alone, it's been a roller coaster as far as like our health. So many of us are sick, are getting even more sick, are becoming sick, and if we do our job and we start talking about this more and we put aside certain differences to kind of for the greater good, for the future generations, if we can't correct it now, at least we can correct it for our future generation. And I vow to do everything I can to do just that, to bring more awareness into my family, make them less afraid about talking about it, so that we can start helping each other out and we can live our best life as healthy as we can. So I have an appointment actually tomorrow, and that appointment is basically it's about the surgery I'm gonna get. Thus far, and I invite you to ask me those questions, via email. You can email me those questions or concerns at simplymiggy910@gmail.com. That's simplymyggy910@gmail.com. I'll even include that link to this podcast episode. But I want to do what I can to help. And I realized that I was going about my journey with this completely wrong. I was keeping things to myself when I should have been telling people about these things, these experiences. Because maybe it is in my path and my journey to share my stories to help, if not one, but hundreds of people out there in the world. And I specifically want to share my story because as a gay male, things are different in our community, and I know there's a lot of stigmas about people who have the kind of condition that I have, about GI issues, colon issues, about being a gay male with a permanent ostomy bag. And I was looking around for some kind of online support group specifically for my demographic, and I found one, but it's not as informative as I want it to be. So I figured, you know what, I want to be helpful to anyone. You don't have to be gay, you could be whatever. I don't even care if you're a polka dot purple alien that feels like they have no true outlet to get answers or to just be heard. Sometimes we just need to get things out. I'm not a therapist, but I'm a person that's, been through a lot, and sometimes those are the best people you can count on for real life scenarios and advice and information. Sometimes it takes someone going through it to be the solution for someone else, or that we hope that we are the solution for someone else, that our journey, our stories can give someone some peace of mind. And I want to hear from you guys as well. Right now I am up for a J-pouch surgery, which is a pretty major surgery, the biggest surgery that I've had to date, so I'm terrified about it. So I'm always looking to hear everyone else's stories, people who've gone through the J-pouch surgery and life after J-pouch surgery, because just like you and everyone else, I'm looking for answers as well, and I just want to be able to understand it more so I can explain it better each time that you guys. And if you guys didn't realize, March is Colon Cancer Awareness Month, so I'm going to do everything I can to find a lot of resources that I can share with people and just be an advocate and bring more awareness to colon cancer, especially for the month of March. Not only am I going to just do it for the month of March, but I plan to just keep the awareness running all year long, because it shouldn't have to just be focused on a month where we become educated and aware of certain issues out there. We can make it a year round. And with that being said, for those of you that are Facebook friends with me, you'll notice that I've been posting things in regards to Colon Cancer Awareness Month, which is the month of March. And I'm going to continue to be posting things even after March, because I don't believe awareness should last, 30 or 31 days, out of the years. I believe awareness is 365 days a year. So I'm going to keep on doing what I have to do to keep that awareness alive and going. And in doing so, I decided to use a feature on Facebook where you get to pick a non-for-profit or an organization to raise money for. And so I chosen Roswell Park Alliance Foundation, because Roswell Park is truly a tremendous place. Ever since I became a patient of Roswell, everyone there has been nothing but nice and helpful, and they really make you feel comfortable, and they make the whole idea of cancer less scary. And because of them, I'm in this race to the finish line to get there before cancer does, and I'm going to be able to do just that because of Roswell Park. And for those that are interested in donating to the Roswell Park Alliance Foundation, I will include that link to this episode, or I can email it to you. And if you're friends with me on Facebook, you can go to my timeline and scroll down a little bit till you find it, and you can click that and donate whatever amount. And any amount is appreciated, because there is no such thing as giving too little. The point is that you're giving, and when you're giving hope, you're giving life, and you're giving people like myself and those affected by cancer the chance to fight and the chance for survival. For anyone who has already donated or is going to donate to the Roswell Park Alliance Foundation that I've chosen on Facebook to not only raise awareness for, but to raise money for such an amazing organization such as Roswell Park Cancer Institute. So anyone that has made any donations to that link that's on my Facebook page, again, I will send you that link so you can donate directly to the Roswell Park Alliance Foundation. And in doing so, I am gifting you guys a blue bow tie that you can wear for the month of March to show your support for colon cancer awareness, or show your support year-round, in fact. This concludes the very first episode of Simply Miggy. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to tune in and listen, and I hope you guys tune in next week. And until then, take care and happy hump day.